So our HO here is 0 and our HA is the difference is greater than 0. So mali yung ano mali yung yung may nagsagot ng ganyan, mali yan siya. Because our samples are dependent. Okay? So this one assumes that you have independent samples. Okay lang yan siya. Kung independent. No? Equivalent lang siya dyan. But since this is not independent, we are concerned with the difference, okay, rather than the individual values. That's the idea. Okay, and then we have here a right-tailed because the what we want to test is whether the deposit for the banks is greater today than it was 3 years ago. So ano ba yung, if we're going to state that as an HA, this would be the proper way of doing that. It's mu sub d greater than 0 is because greater. Okay. Now, if we compute now for the difference, we need to subtract today from 3 years ago. We need to subtract 3 years ago from today, or today minus 3 years ago, because we are concerned with whether this one is true or not, or can be accepted or not. Okay, so let's start. So 16 minus 69, 16.69 minus 11.42, it's 5.27.44, 1.03, and 3. This is 2.55. This one is negative, no? Because we have 5 minus 7. Klaro naman yan. Negative. And this is 0.64. Then 1.88 minus 1.1, 0.78. This is 0.78. Oh, parehas sila. This is 0.6. And this is negative 0.13. Okay. Okay. Now that we have the differences, all we next step is to find the mean. Okay. So we just need to add all of this and then divide it by 9. Pakiano din sa inyo dyan, baka namali ako ng pag-compute. Okay? The sum is 9.73. So therefore, the mean is just the sum divided by 9. We have 1.081. Okay? Now, what's the next step? We need to also square the differences. Okay? Just to get the standard deviation of the differences. So if we're going to square that, so we have square. Okay? So the idea is, why are we going to square? Because we want to find this. So we just need to sum it. Okay? So para diretso na lang, kasi sa calculator meron kasing square. So para diretso, Isasum na lang natin yun siya agad. Okay? Okay ba? Okay. So, yeah. Okay ba? Okay. So the answer is 40.5437. Okay. Now we're ready to compute the standard deviation or the standard error actually. So SD, ano yun lang natin formula? So N times summation of D square minus summation D square over N minus 1. Okay. So that is now the formula. Okay. Klaro naman yan. So our N is of course 9. Okay. So we have 9 times 40.5437 minus the square of the sum, which is 9.73 square, okay, divided by 9 times 8. Then we get the square root, which is approximately 1.937. Gawin ko talaga 937. Although ang tama na, ang mas matahaba na answer is 1.937281887. Okay? So we are now ready to compute the T statistic, which is given by what formula? D minus the mean and over SD divided by square root of 9. Okay? So if we go back, you see the formula here. No? And the degree of freedom is n minus 1. So in our case, it's 8. So let's do this. So we have 1.081 because this is the mean, the calculated the mean of the differences, minus what is our mu d that we assume. So wala naman sinabi how much, no? By how much, but sinabi lang, greater than. So therefore, 0 yan dyan. Okay? It's just 0. Yes, tama. 0. So you have, tama yung sagot, 0. Okay, so you have 1.081 divided by 1.937 over 3 because square root of 9. So, divided by 1.937. Answer is 1.67. Okay? So therefore, ang ating computed ay 1.67. Okay. The question is, we need to compare it with a critical T Compare natin yan sa critical T to find whether or to make a decision whether to reject HO or to accept HO. Okay? So we reject HO. What is our decision rule here? Decision rule is always if the T computed, well, in this case, it's not always, but in this case, is greater than the T critical, then we need to reject HO. So, paano yan siya actually? Compute muna natin si T critical. So T critical, we can compute it using the table, no? So ang table is 0.05, one-tailed, and the degree of freedom is 8. So always remember na one-tailed ito siya. So pag one-tailed, we just need to look at yung table, hanapin natin yung 0.05 or 0.95 na one-tail, and then doon naman sa row, hanapin natin yung degree of freedom. In this case, that's 8. Okay? So tingnan natin. Open muna natin yung mahiwagang Lebru James. Yeah. Wala akong Lebru James. Yeah. Where's my Lebru James? Don't tell me na wala ang aking Lebru James. Okay. Open pa siya. Sige, hanapin niya rin para ma-compare natin yung sagot. Okay? Para hindi tayo mamali kasi mas maganda talaga is maraming nag-compare para ma-verify natin yung sagot natin. Okay, I'll share my screen again. And we try to find the critical. Yeah? Critical T. So, anong table yan? F. The T distribution. Lampas na. Okay. So, yung hanapin ko kanina, one tail, 0.05, and hanapin natin ng 8. It's 1.860. Okay? So, remember that, 1.860. So, 1.860. Is 1.860 lesser than the computed? The answer is no. Very good. Because T computed is 1.67 and it's not greater than, but it's actually less than. Okay. So therefore, what is our conclusion? There is no, so the decision is to do not reject HO or to accept HO. So the difference is not greater than, but it's actually just the same. Okay? Nag-ano lang siya, meron lang kaunti, pero that change or that difference, pwede siya na galing lang siya sa, or can be accounted sa tawag nating sampling error. Okay? Okay. So that's it. That's very simple. Then let's go to another example. Okay. So you try to do this. Try to try to find HA, HO, decision rule. Try to compute the difference, square difference, the sum of the differences and the sum of the square differences, then the mean of the differences, and then compute the standard error or the standard deviation for the differences, and then compute the t, and then compare it with the t critical, and then make the decision whether to reject or accept HO, and then make a conclusion. So that's the complete step for you.